welcome to Lead Live, reminding you of your personal genius and how you think in order to actualize what you desire.
Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here again with you. We're here every Wednesday, noon Pacific Standard Time and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, wherever you're at, whether you're in the United States or you're in another country, we're so appreciative that you show up in order to leverage. But we want you to be inspired and be able to leverage the tools that we share with you. Today, the topic is being mindful. And there's something that is really critical. The salient piece here are twofold. One, you are born from greatness. Two, you are inherently great. You're born from greatness and you're inherently great. Reflect on that. While I'm not going to describe all the details of that in this broadcast, today's broadcast is really about reminding you of that reality from my humble perspective, yet also providing you with some tools, a process of how to enhance your own awareness of self and capacity. So, what are some of the things that I want to share at the outset? When we raise our level of energy, our understanding of our thoughts and our feelings, we literally get to increase our vibration. We get to broadcast more in a more pronounced way to the universe itself, especially when we have a vision that is synergistic with a burning desire. All of a sudden, everything begins to mobilize in sync with just that. Yet I want to make it also very clear that if we have in our mind thoughts, in our heart, in our whole essence, feelings that are not consistent with what we want, not consistent with a vision that we have for ourselves, the universe will mobilize up also to ensure that we manifest that. So be careful what we think about, be careful what we feel, be careful what we do that's synergistic with those feelings, and be careful because those things will lead to certain outcomes. If they're the outcomes we want, continue with that mindset, continue with the heart connection, the feelings related to that mindset, continue with the actions because we're getting what we want. But remember, if we're not getting what we want, it's probably because either our thinking is off, and it's usually that directly affects our feeling, or our feelings are not in sync with our new vision of ourselves. And there's a way to change that. And yes, we'll be talking about that today. We'll go to the surface level of it, and anyone who wants to know more, contact us and we can provide more. In fact, at the end, we're going to provide you a list that you can do a screenshot of texts we recommend you read. You don't have to read them all yesterday. You can take your time and systematically go through them. And you don't have to read the entire set of text, although I strongly recommend you do so, having done so over months. And then going over some of these same texts more than once, 2, 3, or 4 times, powerful each time you go more deeply. So be mindful that each one of us, without exception, emphasis on without exception, is more powerful than we are aware. We're more powerful as an individual than we are even self aware, most likely, for the vast majority, if not all of us. So be mindful of your wiring. What does that mean? We'll talk about that in a second. Create the realities you want to experience. Choose what you want to ensure that your mind inspires you to be open, your heart to be open to receiving what you need in order to manifest the level of greatness that you're entitled to. that you were born from, you're part of, you go back to, you literally are. So I have some questions I want you to think about. Do you know the remarkable you, your remarkable power? Are you familiar with the extent of your capacity? Do you choose to be, and you fill in the blank? Do you choose to be? You fill in the blank that follows that question. What are your values? Do you even know them? Are they yours or are they those you assume because of the adults who reared you, who raised you? What are you choosing to create? Emphasis on choosing. We're in the act of choosing all day long without even knowing it. We get off out of the bed on a particular side. If we're sleeping on a bed, God forbid, some of us are sleeping in our cars, we're sleeping on the ground. Wherever we choose to get up from, we're choosing. When we do what we do throughout the day, we're choosing, even if it's at the subconscious level. And there's a powerful book I recommend people read. It's a little bit dense because it's academic, and yet there's so much in it that's so substantive. And it's The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy, Dr. Joseph Murphy. And what he does is let us understand that the vast majority of what we do all day long is driven by the subconscious mind. Yes, I know. Many of us think we get up, I decide I'm going to do this. But unless we do some things to change our wiring at the subconscious level, we're likely not going to do everything that we said we're going to do. We're going to do particular things that we're wired to do. We'll come back to that in a second. So, what are you experiencing? Or are you experiencing the realities that make you whole, healthy, happy? And what is wholeness? We're going to talk about that in brief. Do you experience joy? I know for some of you, it's like, of course, I know how to engender joy. I know how to create joy. I know how to experience it with loved ones. I have loved ones who instill in me joy. And yet I know some of us, we don't experience joy for a number of what we consider to be rational and even non-rational reasons. And some of them are even irrational. So I want you to think, do you experience joy? There's a reason why I'm asking. What inspires you to open your heart to manifest the inherent greatness you are? What inspires you? So as you think about those questions, I'm not going to answer those questions for you. You're remarkable enough to be able to answer them. And if you don't know the answer, allow yourself the time, permit yourself the time to answer those very important questions. There's a reason. So I want you to know that I've given considerable thought over years about the importance of mindfulness. And yes, most people think that that is basically meditating. Yes, that's how some people go there. But it's much more than that. What is it? It's allowing us the ability to exercise choice at a conscious level. So we're actually influencing our subconscious mind, therefore influencing our behavior, influencing the results, as opposed to just getting results that we've always gotten. What is being mindful? It's being alive to possibility. It's being alive to life itself. It's not being asleep. It's being, even if we're asleep, it's being in that dream state where we're dreaming big, we're letting the magic of life itself inspire us. What is being mindful? It's being awake. It's being sensible too. So, what do I mean by sensible too, as an example? So, it's easy for some of us to be so wired that everything is about the self. And at the beginning and the end of the day, we've got to take care of the self. But not everything in life is about oneself. It is about life itself, which is broader than self. And yet, if you're like me, you fundamentally believe that everything is interrelated. So we're integral to life, and yet life doesn't begin and end with us. So the ego and the I benefits from recognizing it exists, but then setting it aside to be able to be sensible with life itself. Someone comes to you, has a need, it's not always about you. Be open to how you may be able to support them, or someone else can if you're not available. You don't have the tools. Be sensible to the conditions in which you work so that you understand the nature of the conditions better. That it's not just about you and your understanding and your history. It's about learning and growing from the new set of circumstances that you're involved in. Being sensible, being alert to the possibilities. The You ask for something, you have a vision, you concretize it or you operationalize it into a goal, and then you put up a plan and you don't know exactly how to achieve it because the vision is a fantasy vision, it's big, it's out there, and yet you're open to possibilities. However, if you're not really open, you won't be alert to someone walking up and saying, "Hey, I've got a gift." And you're looking at them like they're not dressed right. You're thinking, thank you very much, but no, thank you. You're not alert to possibilities. You're focused on your old mindset that says it has to be packaged in a certain way. It has to come in a certain, it's presented certain way at a certain time with certain individuals. Release yourself from that nonsense. Be alert to possibilities because they will come in all kinds of forms, in all kinds of packages, and through diverse circumstances and individuals. Be alert. Be conscious of what I'm talking about. Be aware of. So, why is being mindful important? I firmly believe, we at Lead Life firmly believe that each one of us benefits from being the CEOs of our own lives. It's so interesting that we tend to think of chief executive officer or the leader of an organization as being normal. We don't think of ourselves as leading our own lives in a comparable way, where we have the basic broad perspective established. We have a vision, we have a mission, we have a core set of values, we have strategies that will allow us to actualize that, and maybe there's strategic directions we're taking, and then they're further strategized in terms of literally operational steps. We do that with organizations, and we believe that is a precondition to the success of an organization, knowing where it's going to go and creating a plan to get there. Well, why aren't we doing that with our own lives? All of us, not just some of us, not just parents, not just grandparents, not just uncles and aunts, not just some siblings versus the others, not just, you get my point. So, with that in mind, what does a CEO value? What do we value? Do you like Lead Live folks with believing that leadership excellence can be achieved on demand? Do you believe that wealth, like us, we believe that wealth is basically the 5 F's? And I'm so appreciative to all those who've taken my core value and reduced it down to 5 F's and didn't originate with me and it won't end with me, thank goodness. Faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. In order to be truly wealthy, you can't have one or a few without all of them. Faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. And that's what we're about here at Lead Live. So you'll come on some sessions and it's literally, we're embedding all of those, or we're embedding one or the other, but we're all about all of those. That's what this mindset is about. How to instill and activate, manifest, and ensure the continuation of the wealth that you want to create in your life. But you first have to be able to answer those questions. I firmly believe you need to know where you're going in order to say, okay, do I have what I need in order to get there? Have I established the foundation and is it solid enough for me to build the rest of my infrastructure on top of? If it's not solid, meaning you don't have things in order, The good news, you have time to get it in order. You're magnificent. You're as powerful and influential and impactful as you choose to be. Emphasis on choose. So I'm going to use a number of words, and I have been: choice, making decisions. That is one of the most powerful things that we do, can do, and will do. The ability to decide and to be accountable to those decisions. Honor it. And when you decide on something and you set timelines and other kinds of parameters and you achieve them, you honor yourself. You don't achieve them, you don't harm yourself. You recognize, I didn't achieve them. Let me assess what didn't go right or what went right and how I can complement, add to what went right in order to get there at a time certain, in order to make changes at a time that's certain, in order to enhance at a time that's certain. So, how can you be more mindful? Yes, I already referenced the whole notion of meditation, and really doesn't even take more than 5 minutes. It could be a minute, it could be an hour, whatever works for you. I remember years ago, someone said, "You just seem calm most of the time." And they didn't know, kind of like, my history of not boiling over or sweating when I'm hot. I might be boiling inside. And yet I've chosen to lead by example. And so even if I'm boiling inside, I've got to address that. So the question is, how do you meditate? And I would leverage meditation. And they would say, "Do you meditate?" I said, "Yeah, all day long." It says, "Oh, wait, you're in meetings all day long." Yeah, point. I'm spending time going to a space, even as I'm actively involved in whatever I'm involved, in order to receive from a source that's higher than all of us who are in those meetings, so that I can be my best, give my best, experience my best, and enjoy the journey of the process. So, yes, you could have a defined period of time, you can integrate it. Then, of course, there's focusing on one thing at a time. I'm known for that to the extreme. That's a task, I focus on it. And I am equally very hard on myself. And I'm learning to release that when I don't meet milestones. There's a milestone that I said I was going to meet over a month ago. I have not met it. And so I'm going to meet it by Monday. And so I had to deal with my own internal disappointment with self and honor it and walk through it, apologize to self, and focus and refocus and refocus. So focus on that one thing at a time, address it, even as you have multiple things to do, but have discrete time so that you can address all the things that you need to address. Slow down. While last year was painful, the pandemic has not lifted fully. We still have folks, unfortunately, getting ill, doing, and even worse. So, but it slowed us down. We're working, at least in the US and many other places on the planet, 24/7. Like, our life depended on 24/7 and not figuring out how to take a break. Well, it forced us to separate, to disconnect shortly. We found ways to reconnect, thank goodness, but hopefully not at the same level of speed that did not allow for reflection. It didn't allow us to say, or didn't encourage us to focus on self in relationship to priorities, real vision related priorities. Keep external input in check. I don't care if it's television, radio, computer, phones. Have those things add value to your life and not drive your life. Keep those external tools, activities, factors in check. Move. You're sitting all day, stand. If you're standing and only sitting all day, walk. If you're only doing those things, stretch. If you added that, a little bit of exercise. You added that, swimming. Just move. Enjoy this body that you possess, this temple. Leverage the things it can do, climb. Enjoy it. Dance. Move playing the drums or acting like you're playing an instrument. Move, enjoy. Enjoy you. Wow. You can do it in an instant all day long. You can just take a moment and just enjoy this you. Spend time in nature. Wherever you're at on the planet, whether you're in a village, whether you're in a bustling city, whether you're in the countryside or you're in an urban environment, suburban environment, you fill in the blank. Enjoy it. Get out, observe. Look at the transformation of that moth into, wow, you fill in the blank. Look at the transformation of that seedling, that branch, and those buds into, you fill in the blank. Look at the drop of something into the water and watch it just vibrate. That's the power of you and I and all life itself. Experience the outdoors, the wind on your face, the rain, oh my goodness, the sun. Experience it all to really take in the benefit that life is to us and we are to life. Leverage all your senses. I'm going to come back to that in a second. And understand your mental faculties to enhance your results. So, what are your mental faculties? Well, we're going to kind of accelerate this a little bit. I want you to be thinking first, I decide. Not necessarily only these things, but first, I decide. Second, I know why I've decided. I mean, you may want to start with my big why, and then I decide. Or you may decide with, I decide I'm going to have a big why, and I'm going to know what my big why is. And then third, I want you to magnify your heart, your mind, or mind heart connection in order to actualize what you decide. I call it enhancing your mindset. Whenever I say mind, I'm talking about heart mind connection. Because quite frankly, we know scientifically the heart is vibrating and sending more signals to the brain than the reverse. So the heart is powerful. And the subconscious mind is what? Well, let's begin to go there. I have a few visuals, and I hope I don't overwhelm you with visuals. But thanks to Jet's guidance, and thank you in the background, Jet, who is our lead in the background of all of this stuff for Lead Live. And he's in the Philippines. And I so appreciate you, Jet, for always showing up because it's 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning your time. So kudos to you, honor you significantly. So the first visual I want people to see is our sensory faculties. So how do you, let's say your life is going well, you're happy, and yet you're a little bit too comfortable and you want to get out of that comfort state and you want to grow more. You want to access more. You want to do more. Or let's say your life is not going well and you literally want to change your whole life. Whether you fall into either one of those categories or another category where your life is brilliant, but you just love growing, I want you to follow what I'm sharing very briefly. This is normally a 6-month training that I go through with folks to literally help them shift from where they're at to where they really want to be. And for those who don't know where they want to be, help them identify where they want to be. Because it's not about me, it's not about others, it's about the self, whoever the self is, where they want to be in relationship to whatever it is that they want to experience as relates to faith, family, fitness, finance, fun. So, sensory faculties. Yes, we have the ability to see, touch, smell, taste, hear. Those 5 sensory faculties is what we came here with as little infants. And we were looking around, we were tasting before we were even looking, we were smelling, and then we began to observe and we wanted to touch. And so the brilliance of all of you who have children is you're allowing that infant to grow and magnify those senses. So they're heightened and they understand and they're receiving rather than no, 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 is all they hear. Yes, 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 is all they hear. Hopefully, the no's come in the form of behaviors to ensure they're protected. But this is what we start off with. And for some of us, we're in our 60s, 70s, and 80s, quite frankly, some of us in 90s, let's be clear, and we're still driven by our sensory faculties. That's not inherently good or bad. However, if we want to go beyond where we're at, I want you to pay attention to what I'm sharing. So, what do these sensory faculties do? They basically guide us to do what I call think into results. Okay, so the sensory faculties are going into our conscious mind. What we taste, there's a thought about that. What we touch, thought about that. We can go on and on and on. And so, what's happening here? The thoughts and ideas ultimately cause a feeling, and the feeling cause actions, and the actions lead to what? Particular results. Now, I said earlier, if the results we're getting based upon that process is what we want, keep at it. If the results we're getting are not what we want, if we're seeing manifest every single day things that we don't believe serve us, then we got to start someplace. And humbly speaking, I say I've lived it. I, of course, read it in numerous research findings, but also books by philosophers and practitioners, etc. And that is your thoughts and ideas definitely affect your subconscious mind, your feelings, that's the feeling mind, your heart mind connection, and it leads to certain actions. Even if you say, I don't want that, doesn't matter unless you change the subconscious mind, which means doing something with the conscious mind. We'll get to that in a second. Unless you do that, you're going to continue to get particular results. So let's jump ahead a little bit. So I said something without showing you this visual. And I want to honor Dr. Thurman. Back in the 1930s, this guy was an extraordinary chiropractic doctor. And at any given time, he might have as many as 500 patients a day. Yes, I know that seems unbelievable, incredible, because he was, as people would call it, he was healing people. Actually, as he would call it, more accurately, he was helping people heal themselves. But we have a tendency of wanting to give everybody else the credit. I get it. And so let's honor people for what they're doing. He created this stick figure, which we call the magic figure, and much more, uh, in order to help people understand their own power to heal. But more importantly, this figure we use to let people understand how they're actively creating their reality every single day. So I remember I had a loved one of my foster mothers. She always talked about, oh, I feel, this, I feel that, and whatever. And the woman was in, for the most part, she was in pretty good shape, but she didn't want to go to work that day. She wanted to go play the horses, or she wanted to go to the races. And so that was her way to convey to her husband, I really can't work. But what she did is she just went to the horses. And I remember thinking as a child, she's talking too much about heart, about legs, about, whatever. She's going to actually experience those things. I didn't know where that came from, but as a child, that was in my mind. Sure enough, I'm off to college and I hear about her. She's had legs removed. She's had sugar diabetes. She had all these different ailments. Well, one could have perceived in advance that if she had that mindset of, I've got to do this. Now, she thought it was a joke. She was just saying those things. But in reality, what we put out there, the universe conspires to make it happen. I expect to be successful. The universe conspires to make that happen. But if we interrupt it with, well, I don't think I really can do that, because the subconscious mind is thinking about all the statements that were made by friends and loved ones who are trying to protect us. And then we shift and say, well, maybe I can't. And then the universe shifts again and says, okay, you can't be successful. But the goal is still there. Or why aren't I successful? Well, you've not addressed the fact that at the subconscious level, at the emotional level, you've already said to the universe, no, 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 I can't be successful. So let's be clear. What Dr. Thurman conveyed was that he used this simplistic view that the mind, he put in the larger circle. The body is in the smaller circle. Now, the mind is in every cell of the body and it vibrates outside of the body. So, this is not to say that the mind is only in the head or in the brain. That is not factually correct. But for the sake of this illustration, the mind he separated into two parts: the thinking mind, the conscious mind, the feeling mind, the heart mind connection, the emotional mind. Okay. And he says that basically what you think generates an emotion. It ultimately causes the body to react in a certain way or take particular actions, and those actions leads to results. And literally, that whole process is spiraling into a continuous reaction, reaction, reaction. Because when we do the results, when we engage in or we witness the results, the universe or the environment around us reinforces that, oh, that's all that Dr. Webb can do, or that's all that Tina can do, or that's all that Elnora can do. And then I begin to believe that. So my thoughts then reinforce the predispositions that I have in my subconscious mind that leads to my body acting a certain way, feeling a certain way. And then I get certain results that are reinforcing that over and over and over again. So we got to interrupt that. That's the real point. And the question is how to interrupt that. And we interrupt it with our mental faculties. And what are our mental faculties? Our mental faculties are what? They're perception, imagination, intuition, will, memory, reason. What did I say? Perception, imagination, intuition, will, memory, reason. Another episode, I'll go into deep storytelling about each one of these. But I want you to take the time to study each one of these. These are mental faculties. Yes, even intuition is, where you know what you know. You don't need evidence, you just know. Most people think that's a feeling. That's an intellectual too, folks. So when someone says, I just know it, it's my intuition, trust it, go there. If it's simply a feeling, feelings are powerful. I don't mean to use simply to negate the power of feelings, but feelings tend to be set based upon experiences, based upon assumptions, based upon all kinds of things, whether they're useful or not. The subconscious mind does not have any, it doesn't, uh, 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 what's the right way to convey it? The subconscious mind does not, um, oh goodness, it's subjective. It is not critical of information. It just accepts everything as though it is. Whereas the conscious mind is the thinking mind, and it is critical. It makes rational decisions. It has rational thinking processes. Where the subconscious mind is just whatever I feel, and it can be rational when you reflect on it, or it can be completely irrational or non-rational. So why did I mention these? The subconscious mind in relationship to the conscious mind, because we have remarkable power. And many of us do what? We assume that our conditions are our conditions because they've always been our conditions. They're the conditions of the people who reared us. They're the conditions of this environment that we've been in. And so it always has to be. Many of us come from that mindset, and we stay in that mindset throughout our lives. And then there are some of us that we call a little bit weird initially, until they create something that's quite remarkable and profound. And usually they don't create it alone, they create it with people. And another episode, we'll have a discussion about the power of masterminding. We won't do it today, but I want you to think about that. No one person has created success alone. I don't care what you read that suggests that. We all have leveraged others, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. I want you to know that too many of us believe that because things have been, that's all they can be. And then when we see a person who seems to be weird and odd initially saying, I think there's more to things. Okay? There's more to what we can create. I want you to know that what I'm talking about is the possibility that you too can go where that so-called weird, unusual, so-called exceptional person who achieved greatness that we all benefit from. And you're like, oh my God, he or she, they're great. They have done this remarkable stuff. Well, quite frankly, they're no more great than you and I. They just leverage their strengths. And your strengths may be different from mine. But let me tell you something. We combine our strengths, we can create magic too. So the point is, how do you do that when your mindset is locked into a history of, I've never performed, I've never been successful, I can't be, I'm Black, I'm short, I'm too big, or whatever it happens to be. All the mindset, I'm not fair enough, I'm too fair, my lips are not big enough, my butt's too small. I mean, let me just tell you, we have all the reasons and all the antidotes online, free, cost, whatever, to fix all this stuff, when in fact, the fix is in the self and leveraging tools that are free to use. Found in text. And let me further describe what you see here. So we call this the secret genie. We call this the magic genie. Literally take this mindset visual. Think, mind, the feeling mind. The body that vibrates, that leads to actions, leads to results, and then reactions from the universe that reinforces what we've done, what we feel, what we thought. And I already began with, we have sensory faculties that actually informed what's at the subconscious level when we were as a child. That's why some people say, well, that person hasn't grown since, and you fill in the blank. They were 15, they were 12, they were 5. It's all about changing what's happening at the conscious level. And how do we do that? We use these mental faculties. We impress them through new habits. New habits. So we take different actions than we historically have taken. Take 1 or 2 different habits, no more than 2, and we literally exercise those new habits every single day. If we miss a day, we start all over. And I always say for 90 days. Some people say 21, some people say, I say 90 days to solidify it. Or when you wake up in the morning, you're engaged in those that 1 or 2 habits without even thinking anymore. And then if you're getting better results, great. Look at another habit you want to change. Now, there's more to this than I'm mentioning, but I'm just giving you a shortcut. You take those mental faculties, memory, perception, will, imagination, reason, intuition, you install them at the thinking level. You literally ask yourself, what kind of new habit will allow me to get a different result and different reactions from the world around us? For example, I want to build an organization. I am building an organization. You shift from I want to, I am. Okay, what is the organization? We're going to literally ensure that X number of people have the financial education they need within 5 years. For me, it's 1 million people. Yes, folks, it's 1 million people have the financial education they need to move towards financial independence. Okay, all righty. It's an absolute. The vision is there. The goal is concrete. Is it aligned with my passion? Absolutely. I feel it. It wakes me up in the morning. It gets me going. I'm organizing a little bit too much. And I'm talking to people, not enough. But I am there. So the universe is vibrating. I mean, my body is vibrating, the universe is responding accordingly. And I asked for a mentor. Guess what? I got more than one mentor. And all of a sudden, things are they're unfolding. You start with that vision, you reduce it or ratchet up to a goal, and then you take it into a plan, and then you let the universe send to you who you need, what you need, how you need it, etc. And you implement, you take action. That's what I'm talking about. And the mindset, if your mind has always told you, there's no way I can do this, that's humanly impossible. Nothing is humanly impossible. Nothing is humanly impossible. And what do I mean by that? Yes, the one person may not be able to do it all. If you have enough people, you can do it all like that. If you have the right medium, online, etc., you can do it like that. You have the right support, you can do it like that. So yes, I know there's this notion of 10,000 hours to master something. I love that. I think that's wonderful. But let me tell you something. You don't have to take 10,000 hours to master something. I know that's all on the internet, etc. You can decide, you can declare how long it's going to take you to master it and expect the universe to give you the tools to make it so. And then it happens. Like it wasn't 10,000 hours. So what? Just because a human or research has found certain results does not mean it applies to you. It applies to you when you make it apply to you. See the power of the thought? And I am not exaggerating. So the folks who've been successful at some point, in some way, they've conveyed success, and they vibrated a level of success, the universe responded accordingly. And guess what? Shifts occurred that they were open to. They never let that passion undermine their ability to move forward. That passion propelled them to move forward. They had a burning desire. Nothing could cause it to waver. No issue. Not even, what do we call it? In Think and Grow Rich, we call it, or thinking into results, or there's so many different text trainings that are all about how you think, the synergistic with your heart, that mind heart connection, and then actions, not reactions, actions, responding rather than reacting. Responding is being more thoughtful, critical, thinking, and then experiencing the results, honoring the results, whatever they happen to be, whether they're 100% in line, they're moving in the right direction. Remember that. And then making course corrections, continue to implement that new 1 or 2 different habits until they become part of who you are. I mean, just think about it. A lot of us have heard the word what? What are we if not our habits, right? So create the kind of habits that will get you to the place where you want to go. Here are some of the texts that I encourage people to just be aware of. These are just some of the texts that I love to reference. And just, you see a lot of these texts behind me. I could have many more than just 11. But I think the Acres of Diamond will hit home the fact that what? That literally your gold, your minerals, your wealth is right in front of you or behind you or to the side of you. It's not very far. And usually it's inside of you. If using your knowledge, that's inside of you. Using your inherent God-given talents or talents from the Great Spirit, inside of you. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Power of Thought. The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. What is it about? It's about thinking. What you think, the power, the secret, the strangest secret is we think into results. That's not the way he conveyed it, but that's the essence of it. We're creating all the time through our thoughts. Psycho-cybernetics. What did Dr. Maxwell Maltz find? This guy was a remarkable surgeon doing work with the stars, okay, transforming the way they look into these beautiful icons of whatever. And some of them took it home and were happy, others were not. And he found that it didn't matter how they looked, because it wasn't the way they looked that was the issue. It was the way they thought and they felt about themselves. So he created a whole remarkable deluxe edition on the power of the psychology and rewiring the way one thinks, cybernetics. And then you too, which I'm going to focus on at another session, really highlights the power of multiple masterminding, leveraging others, leveraging not just any others, those with expertise. Principle-centered leadership. Hopefully you're taking a snapshot of this and you'll be able to leverage it. But let me tell you something. When you use these different tools, what are you finding? You're finding, I think you're going to find a lot of yourself in these texts. And I remember years ago, a guy that I was very infatuated with, he was infatuated with me. And he was like, you got to read these books because they remind me of you. And I'm like, well, why would I read something that reminds me of me? But I'm already, and he's like, just read them. So I read them. And it was a series. And it was true. It's like I found myself in the books in a way that I didn't know the power. They were self-validating. Not that I knew that I needed to be validated. And yet I experienced the validation that I actually did need. And so you will likely experience validation that you need because intuition is ubiquitous, knowledge is ubiquitous, truth is ubiquitous. And so you know what truth is. You don't have to have anyone tell you what it is. And yet when you read these texts that so well beautifully illuminate the truth, you will find yourself and find really a complement of who you are at your essence, and you'll understand why you are wired. You'll understand why you've been fighting to get back to that essence of who you are, that greatness I call who you are, the greatness that leads to your physical well-being, your emotional well-being, your mental well-being, your sexual well-being, your well-being where you're literally sufficiently humble. You're literally calm and at peace. Ensures that you understand your faith and the core values that make up your faith or that are integral to your faith. Ensures that you literally are engaged with your family in the most holistic way possible. And it really is independent of how they treat you. It's how you honor them, whether you're in their presence or not. It's also about how you take care of your finances. I don't care if you're earning what you consider to be insufficient, or you have what you consider to be currently insufficient, or you have an abundance. How you interpret, view your faith, your values, influence how you grow, protect, and sustain those financial assets. And likewise, all of that with the right kind of spirit groundedness. Fun is just right in front of you. It's part of you. It's who you are. It surrounds you. So I want to reference a couple of these other books, and hopefully you've already captured them. You did a screenshot just in case. I'm going to bring them up again. So principled centered leadership, for those of you who already are familiar with Stephen Covey, I love the fundamentals of how he presents what he presents. He really starts with life itself. You know, how we cultivate the soil, and without the proper soil cultivated, whatever is in it won't grow. Well, we're no different. We've got to be nourished appropriately, not only in terms of clear water, appropriately alkaline water, the right kinds of nutrients our bodies need, and we're not all identical. Some of us need more some nutrients than others. The right nutrients that we need, and guarding against any harmful chemicals, because there are many harmful chemicals all around our body. But the powerful thing about the body, it's so powerful, so resilient. It could actually kick out those chemicals with the right kind of mindset, the right kind of behaviors, the way we treat our bodies. So I love his whole basic fundamentals that led to principle-centered leadership. And then Joseph Murphy, I already referenced him earlier in terms of the power of the subconscious mind. Understanding that literally just because you say you're going to do something today does not mean you're going to do it with the level of success you choose, unless and until you're aware and you use those mental faculties to your advantage all day long. And not just will, not just memory, not just imagination, not just intuition, all of those. And I mentioned in the other two. And the power of consistency. Oh, I love this by Weldon Long. Now, a number of us said, "Well, I'm in prison, or a literal prison, or a prison of my own making." And even though I appear to be free, well, this man was literally in prison. He was expected to die on death row, but he took his mindset. He had a shift, He was exposed to something while he was there. You'll learn more about that in the power of consistency. But it shifted him to focus on faith, um, emotional commitment, action, and responsibility. And all of a sudden, he achieved the vision that he created on death row. And you say, how is that possible? Well, read the book. The point is that it doesn't matter whether you're any of these guys or any of the gals that are out there or any of the different ethnic groups or in different ages. You have the power within you. It's within you, not outside, to be the greatness, the genius, to manifest the genius that's in you, but to be the greatness that you actualize, you idealize. And then Think and Grow Rich, The Law of Success, by Napoleon Hill. Powerful, based upon observations, interviews of the wealthiest folks on the planet, reportedly. And let me just tell you, the reality is that whether they're in that text or in the Science of Getting Rich or any other text that I could have listed here, the truth is truth. And you'll find the same basic principles of success to be consistent, consistent, consistent. Dream, burning desire, 100% belief, unwavering faith. When you have a burning desire, again, doesn't matter if it's a barrier, if that barrier terrorizes you, you will literally move the barrier, or you'll go around it, above it, underneath it, you'll get beyond it. Or even if the fear still is there, you'll still achieve because you'll use that fear to catapult you forward. So what's the essence of what I really want to convey? Is that as you emerge and move into a direction of the greatness that you design for yourself, you envision for yourself, I want you to remember, and I want to thank Erica for being here earlier on. Appreciate you and all the others who are here. Value all of you. And those of you who will see this broadcast later because of timing, this doesn't work for you. Just remember to release, to believe, to understand, to decide, to forgive, to ask, and to receive. So what do I mean by that? I think it's somewhat obvious, but I'm going to restate them. Release, believe, understand, decide, forgive, ask, and accept. I could reorder those. I could say decide. I could say ask. I could say receive, accept. I could also say release. So whatever has been holding you, release it. I know it's easier to say than it is to do, especially when it's emotional connection. That's why the new habit, and that new habit may be as simple as every day looking in the mirror, even though it may be difficult. Because I, for many years, would not look in the mirror. I didn't like what I saw because I thought I was ugly. My nose was too big. My cheeks were too big. My lips were too big. It's like, and it's crazy because how many people go to get cheekbones, lips, everything, everything I saw, I didn't see anything that compliment because I bought the old messaging. And the old messaging, when I looked in the mirror, had me looking really crazy. So release that. Release whatever messaging doesn't work for you. And that means literally daily saying something that affirms, look in that mirror and say, I am the greatness that I aspire to. I am it already. I am beautiful. I am remarkable. I am worthy of only good. I am a good person. I love life. Say things even if they feel weird. And if you don't want anyone to hear it, your husband, your wife, your friend, your colleague, then say it internally. I say it's great to go out in nature and express it. You may not want to be a little bit foolish like me, but maybe so. Go someplace and just start dancing and say things, aloud. And I used to do that in parks, and people and it was so funny. I did that for several weeks because I wanted to shift some things for myself. And I went to that park and I saw people doing the same thing. It was bizarre. It was hilarious. Any of it. Do what works. Release and believe. Belief may not come right away, but leverage my belief in you. Leverage other people's belief in you. I firmly believe that everyone, without exception, has an inherent beautiful genius and is worthy to be responsible, healthy, happy, engender, and to instill faith. Understand that you don't know what you don't know. Learn to grow, and much more. And I'll say what I said earlier. Raise your level of vibration, raise your energy, your thoughts, your feelings to broadcast in order to ensure that your vision, your dreams are vibrating at the highest level to manifest what you desire. You have to be clear about that burning desire, though, right? Absolutely. Be mindful that you are powerful beyond measure. Be mindful of your wiring, creating the realities that you experience. Choose what you want to ensure that your mind inspires to create. Your mind inspires to open your heart to manifest your greatness. I believe in you. I have to. I know why. I wonder if you know why. I have to believe in you. I believe in the oneness of all life itself. We need each other. We fundamentally need each other. Without exception, we need life itself. When things become extinct, or the fear of certain things becoming extinct, we realize, oh my God, we need the bees after all to pollinate. We'd lose so much of our food if we didn't have that. Well, think about each one of us. Someone has a genius idea that will make our lives better. We need that someone, that little girl, that little boy to grow into that adulthood, or even while they're a child, to demonstrate that beautiful idea that will help the rest of us. We need each other. I need you to be your brilliant self, wherever you're at on the planet, in order for me to manifest more of my inherent goodness, greatness, etc. I need you to know how beautiful you really are naturally. Always with deep respect and appreciation. Be well and enjoy the balance of this week, and lead with distinction going into the rest of this year in order to demonstrate the exceptional power you are. Remember, begins and ends with mind. Set, be mindful. Why do?